afternoon, everyone, and I hope you had a welcome break before we start this session. I think the introduction is already done for the fellow colleagues, and I think the subject itself is good enough to understand that we are all in the cloud. Everyone coming from the diverse industry, some of them already being like born in the cloud, native cloud, while some have adopted the journey of moving to cloud over the period. So let us begin by taking the perspective from each one of them coming from a different industry. What do they think about which is the cloud technology which may take the center stage this year from their industry vertical point of view? So maybe we can start with Kishore.
Hey, thanks. So see, if you look at the media vertical, we have a kind of dichotomy where all the OTT serving platforms that have been built in media companies, they have been cloud native. Whereas when you look at the content supply ecosystem or the linear and broadcast systems, they have been traditionally on-prem and they have not yet moved to the cloud, and largely because that the vendor ecosystem has not evolved to support the entire movement over there, right? So since last year we are seeing a lot of change in that, and this year a couple of things we are looking into is, one, on the content supply chain, there is this whole concept of glass to glass, where from camera to your screen everything will move to cloud kind of thing, right? So we are running our own pilots, POCs to kind of work on that. On the broadcast system, we want to look at moving at least our DR onto the cloud initially, right? And then once the resiliency is established, we'll look at the rest. On the OTT side, where we have been largely cloud native, we are looking at moving towards a more multi-cloud architecture, where we will kind of exploit whatever each of the clouds provide well, and not be limited or locked into one particular cloud.
Great. So I will get into the further questions. Let's take everyone's perspective. So maybe, what do you?
Okay, I'll go next. This would be working.
Yeah.
So for Zivame specifically, from a software engineering stack perspective, I say cloud adoption is pretty good. But from a data engineering perspective, I say though the components in itself are pretty much there and existing, from a functional use case perspective, there is a much consolidation and commoditization which can happen. Commoditization, yes, it has happened across data ingestion, processing, stream, batch, storage, and querying layers as well. But consolidation really hasn't happened. So I would love to see if this year consolidation happens, and for different use cases of data engineering, we have ready-made pipelines pre-built in AWS, Azure, whatever cloud stack we are on. That would be one I'm looking up to for this year. And second would be cost optimization. Different IaaS providers like AWS in our case, they already have begun providing tools like CO utility, which what they do is they check your infra and they tell you, okay, you are over provisioned here and there by this much percentage, and give us an opportunity to go back, check and optimize further. Though I do not see any private label doing a great job there. So I think this year would be for them as well to come back and say that, okay, we take responsibility not from a human service perspective, but from a software stack perspective as well. Yeah, so those would be my two picks.
So great, thanks. So we have a good perspective from you as a cloud native. Let's hear from Gaurav.
At Udaan, so we are a cloud native company. We started with cloud. I think the biggest trend, right, for us would be multi-cloud and hybrid cloud, right? So two areas of investments, right? Of course, one is efficiency and experience. I think efficiency will be a big priority. So utilization, efficiency. So multi-cloud setups, hybrid setups, right? So bringing some of the services from public clouds to private cloud, I think is one of the priorities for us. And another thing, I think, like my fellow panelists were saying, right, we have been investing, and this year will continue to invest in significantly optimizing our footprint on the cloud, right? So figuring out services and mapping them, matching them well, right, to the configuration on the cloud. So be it tuning the containers, figuring out your orchestration strategy, figuring out a multi-cloud orchestration strategy, right? So that would be the biggest priority. Second, on the experiential side, for us, and I think in general, right, there will be a focus on using the cognitive services, right, which cloud offers. So a lot of these, so for us, for example, on inventory planning, on a lot of vision stuff, right, we use for processing our invoices. I do think many people will start figuring out innovative uses of chat GPT, right? So cognitive would be the second one.
Great. Very interesting. So now let's hear from Anup.
Sure. So, coming from a core development background, firstly, I would like to make a submission that we do not have a single physical server as such. We are fully cloud, and there are some upsides and downsides for that kind of approach. However, coming from the pure development background, I never believed that any low code or no code kind of platforms can ever take traction or solve the real business problems. What I'm seeing recently is some of these platforms are evolving quite well, and you always have that feeling of loss of control. However, for a lot of line of business applications, workflows, these softwares are working quite well, and yeah, low code as a cloud service, that's what we are quite bullish on. I think we will do a massive adoption of that this year. So that is one cloud service we are quite bullish on. And second is overall extended reality. We are watching it very closely. It might take a couple of more years, but it's been ridiculed a bit in social media, but I think the concept-wise it is there, and maybe after gaming, entertainment would follow, and then the advertisement would also follow there. So that's another area we are watching very closely.
That's really interesting. So we would surely want to discuss and learn more about that. But before that, if you can have Neeraj, your view on what do you think will be center stage for you guys and your vertical?
So in PayU, what we want to achieve as a community or as a company, like we want to achieve speed of e-commerce and compliance and regulation of banks. And to have the balance of both the factors, cloud has helped us a lot. It has helped us to increase the visibility which can be passed on to our customers, our partners, and our product tech heavy thought process. So as a company, we are a big believer of multi-cloud strategy. Plus, we don't ignore the value of hybrid environment as well, because cloud is, I would say, just started. Okay, it's gonna get more mature in the space of regulation, and the more they will mature, the cloud adoption will get more increase. And to have the fine balance to keep the benefits and faith and the trust as a center for the citizen of India, in fintech, that approach is going to help us a lot, and every company will grow while working on those principles. So cloud is a very integral part in that perspective, not just companies' growth. It's good for the overall fintech space or payment space or finance institutes. That's how I see it.
Great. That's interesting perspective. So quickly, just take it back to you, since we got a perspective of someone who is completely cloud native, vis-a-vis someone who is working on the hybrid environment, and so on and so forth. We said that what Kishore said. While they, as an OTT platform, they are cloud native, and they still, from the content point of view, there is still a long way to go where content provider has to still, go about or get into that adoption. So most important here in that way, the cloud environment and technologies are fundamentally very different from on-prem, and that is where the journey has to be strengthened, or I would say established, whichever way, because everyone is on a different stage of it. So what is the kind of incentives do you see that cloud can offer for these guys to actually look at adapting into it? At the same time, what is it that you would like to share as when you have already moved to the cloud, or some of them who have already begun the journey on the cloud, and now they're talking about getting into a consolidation or maybe a multi-cloud strategy kind of a thing. So as an organization who's working on a hybrid model, and you have dependency on in your ecosystem of a lot of people still primarily working on on-prem kind of a thing. So what is the kind of incentive do they have to look at moving to cloud?
Oh, there are a lot. So when you take a decision as a group or as a community or as an ecosystem, you need to be very clear what fundamentals you want to work upon and what are the core values you want to achieve. Okay, so here I would like to take an example. Like as a person, you want to control your diet, or you want to go for a weight loss program. First of all, you need to understand what exactly you are eating. Okay, that visibility part plays an important role, and the visibility which gets from cloud, and to get the visibility, cost is very low. Okay, and it helps you to get in a shape better, help you to increase your security posture. Let's take an example. If you want to increase the visibility of your compliance requirement, or what you already have, what it looks like in a quarter, what it looks like in a 6 month or a year. Okay, the normal way is some audit or something gonna happen like in a quarter or something. But if you are in a cloud and if you are using their services appropriately, okay, you can get the required visibility and requirement almost real time. So you need not to just wait for an event or an incident. You can make yourself foolproof even a step ahead. Another thing is, see, oh, nowadays main focus is on data. Okay, how secure it is, how it's uh, at a transit, how it's a storage. If you have the end-to-end visibility, you can use that data with the tooling which is not very cost heavy as compared to data center, and you can get the desired result. Now let me come back to the power of hybrid. Okay, so I'm audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. So there are security appliances, okay, which are running or in the system for like 20, 25 years or 30 years. The kind of maturity they have, because it's a pure hardware, pure blades which you put it. Let me take an example of a stateful firewall. It it has the required power to help you inspect your traffic and work accordingly. Those kind of appliance maturity in a cloud might take bit more, because the culture of how cloud operates, people need to understand it a bit more deeper and understand the consequences more first principle perspective. It's not just like you simply put a virtual appliance of a firewall or anything and it's gonna work. No, it's a fundamental change, right? Like an electric car, you can't simply replace a motor with a battery and it's gonna work. So to not to risk the fundamental elements, you can use the existing hybrid model to get everything intact and support your cloud. So for security and regulation, we are hybrid heavy. For speed, we rely on cloud. That's how I see the world.
Great. So I think I'll just pick up one keyword. appropriately. That's the key. I mean, it's all about, you said that, how we appropriately use the cloud or the benefits of the cloud. So I'll pick up the word appropriately and maybe I'll come up with the next question. Let's take Kishore's view on that first. For your ecosystem, what do you feel, what should be the ideal way, or what is it that your content provider as an incentive they have to look at moving to cloud?
So, see, my view on that generally is that the cloud movement should not be driven by cost savings, right? I think people need to look at it from a perspective of driving new business value for the company, right? And then there are inherent aspects where the cloud is very strong. We need to maybe relook at the processes, etc., that are there, and not do a lift and shift into the cloud, because lot of companies are doing a lift and shift, and then they're finding that the costs have just gone up, right? And it's also the finance teams, etc., find it very difficult to kind of moderate and keep control on the cloud spends, right? So I think companies need to take a very different approach. So for example, if you look at it, our ecosystem, it's a problem like rendering, right, lends itself well into a cloud elasticity based use case, right? So now like you can use spot instances, etc. One of the challenges our ecosystem has, one of the big challenges rather, is piracy, right? And for piracy, it's the weakest link, right? Which is, you're as good as your weakest link. So now when you do the entire glass to glass kind of things on cloud, you can enable that kind of security across the ecosystem, right? The other thing is like say a lot of our content, which like XaaS, now 30-plus-year-old company, we have, I'm saying, petabytes and petabytes of content staying in data centers, right? So now you want to do something, our creative team will raise a request, they'll pull it out of the tape drives, make it available. Now, if all that content was always available and indexed from a metadata perspective, available to be looked up, what kind of creative value can be unlocked on top of that, right? Like we are now running algorithms on them, finding which are the scenes at which we should run ads, how to improve our recommendation systems basis that, can we convert some of the content into new formats, like say Dolby Vision Atmos, and relaunch old content, right? Like say, for example, Elton John has this Rocket Man, which was relaunched in Dolby Atmos, and everybody in the world bought one more copy of the thing, right? And I'm saying it's already post its sales cycle, but they were able to, Apple was able to generate revenue on top of that, right? So similarly, we are looking at, can we bring out some of the content or characters, like we own Mr. India. Can we look at it from a character in the metaverse perspective, or can we look at NFTs we can make around that, right? So now for all of this, we need the content to be always available, right? One of the other things we have is we have a large licensing and distribution business. Now, can we build a catalog of all the content that we own and make it for any other geographies, broadcaster or someone to kind of come, like an e-commerce site, look up the content, decide this is the content they want to purchase, our transcoding pipelines run, deliver the content in the format they want, kind of thing, right? So there are a whole bunch of these new business use cases that we can drive. Can we relay out the entire thing? Like when you come to content, another thing which I feel is the moment in the content ecosystem is very similar to what happened few years back in the big data ecosystem, right? Where previously the data would move to the compute, right? With big data, the compute started moving to data, right? So similarly, one of the guidelines, at least when we are architecting our solutions, I have given is that once a content is uploaded, it should always remain in the same place. We should never move the content, right? Application should go to the content, right? And it should apply whatever transformations, etc. they want, like post content, production ops or QC, whatever. It needs to get applied there only. So that one from auditability, security perspective also, it becomes better. And then the efficiency builds up over time, right? So I think a lot needs to be looked up, ground up, especially where older ecosystems where you had dedicated on-prem infrastructure. So for example, if you look at our post-content ops, there would be scheduling from teams to go and use particular servers, etc. Right? Now on the cloud, anytime you can spin up a new instance and make it available, right? And Another place where it lends itself well is if you look at an OTT service, we have like surges through the day, right? It's not that through the day we have the same demand, right? Like evenings, we have a lot more viewership than we have during the day. Night, while we have a global presence, US audience, etc., is not in the same level as the Indian audience for us, right? We have weekly patterns, right, where there are on particular days we have a lot more traffic than others, so we can use it efficiently. Then whenever we do new content releases, like last year when we released RRR, or when we had our international cricket league happening in January, during those periods alone, we can start investing on the infrastructure, bring it up, spot instances, etc., run that. We don't have to invest in dedicated infrastructure anymore, right? So my suggestion there is, there are these low-hanging fruits with which the the value is clearly visible. Look at the places where you can add new business value, relook at the entire work process, because in a cloud native world, you can relook at the way things work also, right? So I think with a combination, it becomes a more easier sell within the organizations.
Great. So I think what I would take out as some of the key learnings or pick off for me will be, of course, the business value, the BV, which is the most, I think, attractive and the key component for incentivizing any business to look at this adoption. Second is, of course, the security, like you mentioned. And third, I would say the ease of, I would say the visibility or ease of retrievability is something which becomes very important and relevant. So great. So Anup, what do you think? I mean, what do you feel from your line of business, or maybe where of course again you have an ecosystem of supply chain and everything, where lot may still be on-prem kind of a thing, or even to some extent manual. They may not even be on the systems. What do you think? I mean, how do you want to look at it?
Right. So in terms of cloud adoption, we are on multi-cloud and we are fully on cloud. However, we are always mindful that we should not have a lock-in with any particular vendor. And what services to be used, because some of these services, the platforms that we have now, are very critical to our business.